Okay, so this is a video to go alongside the English literature lesson about how Conan Doyle presents mystery and excitement in The Son of the Four. I'm trying out a new microphone. I'm speaking loudly, so hopefully it'll pick me up. So do adjust the controls on your internet device. So, what will you need for this lesson? Obviously, listening to the audio and some copies of the slides, which will be on Show My Homework, or this link, which will be on YouTube. We're going to discuss 4 extracts from the Sign of Four, so it would be really useful if you have these extracts and either download the Word document with them on, or if you can print them. If you've got your own copy of the Sign of the Four, you should be able to find them as well. You need something to write with, so you should either be making notes with pen and paper or typing. I suggest OneDrive. So we're exploring how Doyle creates mystery and excitement through the plot, the character, the setting, and the language. And obviously we're responding to literature and considering how we actually would write an extended response to the Sign of the Four. So to start off with, I want you to try and list at least 8 typical features or conventions of the detective fiction genre. You might want to pause the video and give that a go. So here are some of the things you might have put. I'm not going to read them all, but just to draw your attention to a few things which are key to mystery and excitement. We have crime, we have in The Son of Four, we have theft, we have treasure, we have murder. So lots of these crimes, and the idea that you have this amazing, clever detective trying to pursue and capture the criminals and bring them to justice is a key source of mystery and excitement in the novel. So when we're thinking about this question, how does Conan Doyle present mystery and excitement in The Sign of the Four, we have to remember that there are some themes that are linked. You can see them at the bottom here. So no theme exists on its own in a novel like The Sign of the Four. So when we're thinking about mystery and excitement, that's inextricably linked to some of the settings and some of the characters, particularly Small and Tonga, which are linked to ideas about evil and fear. But what I've tried to do is boil it down to 3 ideas that we can explore, which you can read there for yourself. So these are the big ideas that hopefully we'll have in the back of our mind when we're looking at some of the key extracts from the novel. Okay? Have a pause, read those big ideas, have a think about them, and then we'll move on to the extracts. So here are 4 extracts I've picked for us to explore. This doesn't mean that these are the only places in the novel where there is mystery and excitement, and it was actually really difficult to boil it down to just 4 moments. Some of the things I've missed out are, the whole of chapter 12, where Jonathan Small is describing his sort of mysterious story where he was in India during the time of the Indian Rebellion and he was in the Agra fort, which is a very exciting, mysterious moment of the novel, but I've just narrowed it down to these 4 moments. Now, what I'm going to do on the slides now, I'm going to show you some extracts. So we're going to look at each of these 4 extracts. What you need to do is spend a bit of time thinking about them. If you can, having a printed copy that you can annotate would be really, really useful. But after you've had some time to think about them, I've got some copies in front of me that I'm going to try and annotate and pick apart some of the elements in the extracts that add specifically to mystery and excitement. So here is your first extract, which you can pause and read. It's from chapter 3, and it's when Watson is sort of ruminating on his journey through London in the cab with Holmes and Watson. They are just about to meet these people at the Lyceum before they are diverted to Thaddeus Sholto's apartment, which constitutes chapter 4. So when you read it, have a think about what's being described in the extract. Have a think about Russell's language, the methods used by the writer, and what Russell's intentions are. Why is this section important? Why does he give us sort of Watson's thoughts and feelings about the setting of London when they are driving through it? Okay, I'm going to switch to the camera now. So if you can pause and make some notes, then I'll share with you some of my thoughts. Okay, so I've got the extract here in front of me. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I think it's worth picking out initially some of the methods that Doyle uses to describe London. And you'll know from your own reading and from your contextual knowledge that this is set during the 1880s. You know, we have the Industrial Revolution, we have lots of industry within London, and we hear with the kind of mud-coloured clouds and the muddy streets some evidence of the general sort of dirt and filth of London at the time. But I want to pick out these things here that I've highlighted. So dreary is synonymous with it being quite dull and bleak, the general atmosphere. And we've got, obviously, the personifications of the clouds here as if they're sad and they're muddy and they're drooping over the muddy streets. So the repetition of mud and muddy here sort of almost augments the clouds and the sky and the streets themselves, creates this very dull and bleak atmosphere. But what has this got to do with mystery and excitement? Well, for me, this passage with Watson's description really illustrates the sort of initial stages of the mystery. Okay, so we've got lots of discussion and descriptions of light here, and you know, light and dark are often symbolic of clarity and lack of clarity. So the fact that the lamps on the Strand, this street in London, are only giving you misty splotches of light and feeble glimmers suggests to me a general lack of light, which can be a lack of clarity, and this darkness might reflect the sort of mystery of the novel. Furthermore, the light from the shop windows, this yellow glare, is murky and shifting. So radiance means light, and if things are shifting, they're moving, and murky, again, means sort of unclear. So there's this general darkness, symbolic of the mystery that's overhanging Watson's feelings at the moment. You know, not only are they embarking on this strange case with this Mary Morton, her missing father, but they're also travelling through London on this quite dismal night. And there's loads and loads to pick out here, but just a couple of other things I want you to consider. So we have the dull, heavy evening and the strange business, which are combining here, leaving a nervous and depressed impression on Watson. So really, lots of the extract is about how the atmosphere, the weather, this dismal, bleak description combines with and reflects the general strange business, which is just beginning at this stage. You know, it hasn't really been developed. We haven't even met Thaddeus Sholto yet. So we have here a passage which is quite good at outlining the beginning of the mystery. Watson, Holmes, and Mary embarking towards an unknown destination, meeting a stranger at the Lyceum, and you know, answering this strange letter that Mary has brought with her to 221B Baker Street earlier in chapter 2. And this feeling is, of course, echoed with Miss Morstan, who feels the same sense of nervousness and depression. All right, let's have a look at extract 2. So this, again, this is Bartholomew's death in chapter 5. Pause the video, think for yourself for a bit, consider what's being described and the methods of the writer. And then I'm going to go back to the camera and give you some thoughts. But I do encourage you to pause and try and think independently for a while. Okay, so let's place this into context. Chapter 5. So chapter 4 is the story of the bald-headed man, Thaddeus Sholto. We learn about the treasure. We learn about Major Sholto's death. And we learn that Thaddeus wishes to share the treasure with Mary. So Mary, Watson, and Holmes, accompanied by Thaddeus, embark on their journey towards Pondicherry Lodge, which is the home of Bartholomew and former home of Major Sholto. We know that Bartholomew has found the treasure, so we expect to go there and for perhaps the treasure to be found and for them to negotiate so that Mary is restored with her fair share of the treasure. And instead we have a general sort of clamour with screaming of the housekeeper, Mrs. Bernstone, and we soon discover that Bartholomew Sholto is dead. So let's have a look. Initially, we have a locked door, locked on the inside. This is a classic convention of detective fiction where terrible crimes commit in a locked room. Locked room. So, adding to the mystery and the excitement here, we have, Sherlock and Watson on the outside not being able to get in, and we have Sherlock Holmes, a man that we'd expect to be quite composed, looking through the keyhole and instantly rising with a sharp gasp, this intaking of breath. So his general shock and his fear, which is perhaps unusual for someone who typically has a very languid, lazy, relaxed and composed way of behaving. And he immediately says that it is devilish. So, this is a huge moment of tension. What can it be behind the door that causes Holmes to react in this way? And then our faithful narrator, Watson, stoops and looks through the keyhole, and he recoils in horror. So we can see this evidence of the recoiling, that taking this, leaping back from the keyhole, and the feeling of horror, highlighting his fear here, and the excitement and the mystery. And finally, when Watson describes what he can see, we have the face of our companion Thaddeus, of course, because Bartholomew is Thaddeus's twins, and perhaps most significantly, we have the features set in this horrible smile, a fixed and unnatural grin. So Bartholomew's death is unnatural, so it's strange, it's kind of terrifying, and it's very eerie for this dead body to be fixed with a grin here. And at this moment, we have all these questions flooding through our mind, like, how was he killed? He's inside a locked room. What does this mean for the treasure? And these questions raised by the extract really contribute to the excitement and the tension and the mystery at this point. And the last thing I want to mention is, again, you've got this light motif that we saw in the early extract, and we've got this moonlit room, moonlight streaming into the room, almost creating a very sort of gothic tone in this very gothic building, Pondicherry Lodge. And the combination of this horrible smile, this dead body in this locked room, we don't know how he's died yet, is very jarring to Watson's nerves. And this idea that dying with a smile is far worse than any other, dying with a scowl or a frown, a contortion. Okay, let's flip back to the sides here. So this is the third extract. This is the boat chase. So again, have a read. This is very much about excitement rather than mystery here, and I'm going to give you some time to think about that before we pick out some of Conan Doyle's methods here. Okay, let's have a look. So here we have Holmes, Watson, Athelney Jones aboard their boat, desperately trying to catch the Aurora, where we believe Jonathan Small, his companion, who we haven't met yet, haven't seen, we've only heard speculation about what he might be like, are aboard the Aurora. And straight away, we must catch her, cried Holmes. Heap it on, stokers. So the stokers are the people shoveling the coal onto this steamboat to stoke the flames and keep it running. Look at all these exclamations and the force and the passion and the determination of Holmes here really outlies the excitement and this hyper-tense moment. I want to draw your attention to some of the language described to describe the boat. Really brings it to life. The furnaces roared, so where they're burning the coal, it almost like some sort of animal desperately chasing its prey. The powerful engines whizzed and clanked. We've got all these verbs in this passage: sprang, quivered, whizzed, clanked. Really help, flashed, here's another, bring out the energy and the movement and the pace of this boat chase. You've also got the subtle, or not so subtle, I suppose, personification of the boat. And boats are often personified as sort of having their own personalities, if you like. But here we've got the great metallic heart of the vessel, the engine like a heart powering this vessel forward. Later, we've got the engines like a living thing, so we really get the sense of Doyle trying to bring this chase to life, to really build the novel up to its climactic point where Watson and Holmes do eventually catch up with these criminals. And a couple of other things. They can see the Aurora ahead of them at the pace which she is moving, so that they're sort of gaining on the Aurora. We've got some listing here. They're moving past barges, steamers, merchant vessels, in and out. The listing here, the pace of the sentence really reflects the pace of the boat. And, barges, steamers, merchant vessels. This is the Thames in the midst of the Victorian era. It's a busy industrial place. It's not an empty river with one or two boats. You can really get a sense of danger and how the boats must be manoeuvring to avoid a crash here. And once again, the extract I've picked ends with yet more urgent, imperative commands from Holmes as they desperately try and catch up with the Aurora. Okay, the final extract then. So we're going to go back to the slides, just in case you don't have the Word document in front of you. Pause, read, think. What can we glean from this extract? Do spend some time thinking about it independently. Okay, so let's put this extract into context here. This is still chapter 10, and they're gaining on the Aurora. And throughout the novel, we've had subtle hints about Small's companion, who of course we know as Tonga, described in a very cruel, animalistic, savage way. I think the contemporary reader would be perhaps taken in by this depiction of this fierce, uncivilized other from this savage land somewhere within the British Empire. Of course, as modern post-colonial readers, we read Tonga in a much more sympathetic way. And we know we've encountered this extract before and discussed the kind of animalistic, cruel depiction of Tonga. Here he's dehumanized here. We've got words like savage and creature, which totally dehumanize this and other this character. But as we're focusing on mystery and excitement, we've got to try and imagine that Doyle's intentions here of kind of bringing Holmes and Watson within inches of this terrifying character, this deadly character who's already killed Bartholomew Sholto. And the language used here, whilst we can explore the kind of inherent racism found in the text, we can also explore Doyle attempting to kind of present Tonga as this terrifying, savage, almost beast here, which for the contemporary readers would surely be something that would be exciting and terrifying and mysterious, because they quite frankly wouldn't perhaps be as used to living within. I'm being careful with my language here, because of course Victorians would know that there are people from other cultures, but their attitudes towards them would have been very difficult, I think it's fair to say. So look, fire if he raises his hand, Holmes says quietly to Watson. They're clearly terrified. They're clearly aware that this is a frightening moment for them. And they're gaining. They're within a boat's length of their quarry, which is like their prey. And they can see the white man, Jonathan Small, shrieking out, swearing at them, and this hideous creature with his hideous face and his teeth gnashing at them, which is this frightful image. So then perhaps the most terrifying moment, when both Watson and Doyle come within an inch of their lives of Tonga and one of his poisoned darts. Even as we looked, he plucked out from under his covering a short round piece of wood, his blowpipe, and clapped it to his lips. This is the moment where Doyle presents a peak of danger. We learn later that there was a poisoned dart impaled on the boat behind Watson and Holmes. They've come within an inch of their deaths. But their pistols rang out together. And, you know, again, to reiterate, as a modern post-colonial reader, we have much more sympathy for Tonga, and we can certainly write about Tonga as a figure who's been unfairly represented as this savage and dehumanized throughout the text. But here, I think we're supposed to, as a contemporary reader, think, you know, feel a sense of relief that finally this savage creature has been dispatched, been killed, who's a proven murderer who comes within an inch of killing Watson and Holmes. So, you know, menacing eyes, venomous, the snake-like animal imagery. A final couple of things then. So I think you could use all this to plan an essay. And our essay question would be the same that we had at the start of the slides. How does Conan Doyle present mystery and excitement in The Sign of the Four? The three big ideas we've used earlier. And, you know, when you're writing an essay for this, you would have an extract in front of you and a question to discuss the extract and the whole text. And you might just focus on three main ideas. So for the purpose of this, you might try and think about the three out of those four extracts, or perhaps combining two of the extracts into one of your ideas. Now, I'm not using the word paragraph here because I think your essay should be led by what you think are the most important, significant ideas within the text. So you might use a table like this to plan. I've got an example you can see at the bottom of the slides here. So one of my main ideas might be about the way Conan creates excitement by the way he vividly describes the intense boat chase in chapter 10. And I might focus on the dialogue and the way the boat is personified, as because we know when we're discussing the text, we have to be able to discuss Conan Doyle's methods and how he conveys his ideas. And lastly, I've got a little writing frame here that you could use, and this follows the what, how, why structure that we've practiced lots in lessons. Remember, you can't just write every sentence on the screen here and expect to write a good essay. It's about you using these sentences and adapting them to suit your purposes and balancing what you think the interesting ideas are and the way Conan Doyle uses language to convey these ideas. And remember, at the top end, we need to be thinking about what Conan Doyle's intentions are. What is he trying to reveal to us about mystery and excitement? Remembering all along that mystery and excitement are two themes that overlap with other themes like fear, evil, crime, perhaps even justice, and certainly some of the settings in the novel. Good luck.